Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kelly Nierick, the Senior Director of Products and Services with the Small Business Association of Michigan. Now more than ever, small businesses need to be protected from cyber attacks. Yet many of our members find the solutions to be expensive, complicated, and time-consuming. Our approved partner, Sensei, simplifies everything for you and provides deliverables that not only identify your cybersecurity vulnerabilities, but they will reduce your risk and ensure that you can recover should an attack occur. You may not know this, but the greatest external threat to organizations today is cybersecurity attacks. And companies like yours, small to medium-sized, are becoming more frequent targets every day. When it comes to cybersecurity, our own employees can be our greatest risk of incurring attack. Researchers at Stanford University found that 88% of all data breaches are caused by an employee making a mistake. This has been a consistent trend in cybersecurity for many years, but it can be avoided by educating yourself and your staff about how cyber criminals are targeting your small business. So today, our webinar will cover the methods in which hackers target your employees and how you can stop it from happening. Presenting today are two Sensei representatives, David Behan and Dave Kelly. David Behan is the Chief Client Success Officer at Sensei and has held executive leadership roles in the private and public sector for over 20 years. He spent 6 years as a cabinet member for Governor Rick Snyder as the Director of Department of Technology, Management and Budget, and Chief Information Officer for the state of Michigan. David co-founded a software company, InfoReady, and served as a vice president and CIO of its parent company. He holds several board and committee positions in professional and technology organizations, and he frequently serves as a keynote speaker, expert panelist, and moderator for national and international audiences, providing his expertise on IT, cybersecurity, data management, and leadership. Dave Kelly is the Chief Technology Officer at Sensei. He served 26 years with the Michigan State Police, where he was the commanding officer of the Michigan Cyber Command Center and the Michigan Intelligence Operations Center. Dave retired from the MSP as an enlisted captain and the Director of Technology. He's held government leadership positions in cyber command, threat intelligence, digital forensics, cyber response, and security operations centers. Since retiring from the Michigan State Police, Dave has served as a VP of Solutions and Strategy and as a Chief Solutions Officer for 2 major software companies. In these roles, he led projects that applied machine learning and artificial intelligence to cyber data to empower SOC analysis and threat incident response while informing zero trust architecture. Dave has been a keynote speaker, expert panelist, and subject matter expert for diverse government audiences, and is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. So just as a note, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website. We will send you an email with a link that you can refer to later or share with other team members at your company. You are currently muted, but we encourage you to submit any questions through the chat feature, and we will answer them as we go along. So with no further ado, I will pass it on to David with Sensei to kick us off.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. You're in for a treat today. You have Dave Kelly is going to be talking about social engineering. He's going to really give you some awesome tidbits and things to look for. So you're in for a treat. It's going to be a fun session. As Kelly just said, if we want to make it interactive, let's do that. So feel free to go into the chat, put in your question, and we'll answer those. And again, welcome to today's session. What we're going to do now, though, is first let's do a couple polling questions. So we're going to do a couple polling questions. We're going to do 2 here now at the beginning. I think it'll take a couple minutes. So why don't we go ahead and submit that first polling question? So here's the first one. Do you know anyone who's experienced a cyber attack in the last 3 years? So go ahead and submit your answer. I think, I've been doing cyber for the last decade, and I suspect I know what this answer to this question will be, how high that percentage might go. But yeah, go ahead and submit your answer for this one, and we'll see what the answer is at the end. I know Dave Kelly, with his Michigan State Police background, has seen a lot of cyber attacks and a lot of incident response in his career. And I think he's going to go over a little bit of that with you guys today too. So it's going to be pretty exciting, pretty fun. All right, let's give it about 10 more seconds on this question, and then we'll do the next one. All right, great. So let's go to the second question. And the second question is, are you looking to improve your cybersecurity? And there's 3 answers. Yes, right away. Yes, in the next 3 to 6 months. Or C, I'm not really sure it's in my budget. If you ask my kids how they would answer this one, they would say, yeah, my dad says yes right away. Because I'm a nut about cybersecurity with my family and my friends. So take your time here. Again, we got about half a minute, and we'll answer these questions. And again, we're going to see the answers for these poll questions at the end. So I appreciate your guys' active participation. We'll give it a couple more seconds here, and then we'll go on. All right. I think we gave everyone enough time. Now, again, it's my privilege to introduce Dave Kelly, not only as the co-founder of Sensei, but a dear friend of mine and somebody that you can look upon as an expert in the field. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Hey, thanks for the warm introduction, David. I really appreciate it, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm happy to share this information. I hope it'll be as exciting as David billed it to be. But really, it's just about sort of educating you, and hopefully you can pass some of what you learn on today to your employees to also educate them as well. So what we're going to be talking about today is social engineering. What is social engineering? I think oftentimes, when we as lay people think about cyber incidents and hacking, we think about some, genius computer hacker sitting behind a screen somewhere and finding some secret way to get into your systems. But in reality, a large portion of successful cyber attacks are caused by social engineering, which is really an attempt to exploit human weaknesses to gain access to your systems. And these hackers do this in numerous ways, which we'll kind of go through some of them. My objective here is to show you specific examples. It's usually either by email, by text message, by social media messaging, phone calls, and we'll cover some other ways in which they do it. And the objective is to create something for your employees to do, an action for your employees to do. And oftentimes they look very real, and we'll go over those and kind of show you examples of each one of them. So why is this important? Just a few recent statistics. The FBI crime report from 2021, stated that social engineering attacks have gone up. You can see 1,178% since 2017. And the reason for that is they work. And the reason why they work is because a lot of our employees are not educated on how to recognize them, right? So if we can spend some time educating our employees on how to recognize these things, these attacks will start to go down. Kelly mentioned earlier, there's a statistic out there, a Stanford University study, that 88% of attacks are caused by an employee making a mistake. Forbes just published an article this year saying 57% of successful cyber attacks on small businesses directly involve social engineering. So it's something that you definitely need to be aware of. And then lastly, these attacks can get expensive. Security InfoWatch reports that the average remediation cost is $130,000 when one of these attacks is successful. So that's why it should be important to all of us who are business owners. There are a lot of different types of social engineering attacks. Obviously, in the essence of time, we're just going to cover a few of them, and we're going to cover the most popular ones and ones that we have very recent examples to show you about. So we're going to talk about phishing, spear phishing, smishing, and scareware. So with that, we'll jump right into it. So phishing, I think everybody on this call has probably received an attempt at a phishing attack. So what is phishing? Phishing is really when a threat actor, a cyber criminal, creates a ruse that always involves two things: a sense of urgency, like, hey, you need to do something right away, and oftentimes it's impersonating a recognized brand. Think of your bank, your social media accounts, software that you use at work on a daily basis, like DocuSign or QuickBooks, right? So they're impersonating a recognized brand. They're creating a sense of urgency for your employees to take an action, and they're composing an email and sending it out to hundreds of thousands of email addresses. So it's just a broad-based attack where they're hoping they're going to get a few people to be bait in this phishing attack. And what they're looking to do is either deploy malware or ransomware on your systems, or try to obtain login credentials from your employees where they can then get into your systems and do further damage. So we're going to go through a recent example of a phishing attack. This one is very recent. If you take a look at this email, if any of you use DocuSign, it looks very official, right? At first glance, if I'm doing a lot of DocuSign work in my day-to-day job and I see this come across, nothing immediately alerts me that this should be a problem. But there are things in here that we can look at and identify that this is not a real email from DocuSign. So let me start to go through those. And for each one of these examples, each one of these different types of social engineering attacks, I'm going to walk you through some examples. So the first thing we should notice is it says "Dear Recipient," right? A generic introduction is not going to come from DocuSign. They have your account, they're sending you something, they know your name, it's going to have your name. Second thing we should look for, and you're going to see this as a theme, incorrect grammar. The reason for that is a lot of these, like I said, these attacks are sent out to hundreds of thousands of email addresses. Many of them are coming from non-US places, from foreign actors who are not native English speakers. So by virtue of the fact that they're not native English speakers, they're either making grammatical mistakes or they're using a online translator. And so it's very important to read the text. And you can see here it says, "This message holds a secure information," right? DocuSign's not going to make that mistake. So grammatical errors. This one's a little bit harder to recognize unless you do a lot of DocuSign, but this code is way too short. The DocuSign codes are typically twice this long. Lastly, and this goes to any type of phishing email that you might receive or any type of email that you might be suspicious of, always hover over the button that they're trying to get you to click on. And when you hover over that, you'll see the website address that they're trying to direct you to. If this were a real DocuSign email, they would be directing you to DocuSign.net, and it would look like this. So this is a real one. I pulled it from one of our DocuSigns. You can see it says right there, DocuSign.net. If you hovered over this one, it would have shown you a completely different URL. So these are the things that you can look for and should be looking for in all of the correspondence that you receive. So what would happen if I were to click on this? Let's say I missed all of this and I click on the view invoice. What's going to happen? It's going to take me to the DocuSign login page. And this is the hacker's objective, right? They already have my email address because they sent the email to me, so that's pre-filled. And it looks very official. So how am I going to recognize that this is not an actual DocuSign login and they're trying to steal my credentials? And that's most often going to be through the website address. So if I look at that, it says account document sign in .work, right? If it's from DocuSign, if it's a login page, it's always going to be DocuSign.com. And if it's a document that they're trying to get you to sign, it's always going to be DocuSign.net. One other thing to point out here, this .work domain is something that hackers are using a lot, right? It isn't an actual domain. And the reason why they're using it is because if you're, let's say, John's Landscaping, and one of your employees gets a login thing that says johnslandscaping.work, it seems official, right? So be on the lookout for that .work domain address. Next one we'll talk about is spear phishing. So spear phishing is a little bit different. It's a researched type of attack. So the cyber criminal is actually doing research on you, doing research on your company, and their intention is to send something that looks like it's officially from someone in your company to someone else in your company. And they often have something in mind that they're trying to obtain. They're trying to obtain banking information. They're trying to obtain login credentials. And they're doing that by going to LinkedIn, for example, and looking at your company's employee list and saying, okay, this person works in accounting. I'm going to try to get banking information from this person. This person seems to be a supervisor in accounting. I'm going to make an email that looks like it's coming from the supervisor in accounting to the employee in accounting, asking for something that the hacker wants. So their objective is then to get your employee to send them that information. And we'll walk through an example here. This is an email coming from, you can see it looks like it's coming from Bhushan Kulkarni. He's one of our co-founders here at Sensei. You can see it has his image there. That is him. Looks very official. It's coming to several people at Sensei, and it's talking about effective today, we have a new unlimited PTO policy, and it's asking us to click on the link to review the PTO, unlimited PTO policy, something we do have at Sensei, so seems legitimate. What do we look for? Again, we've got a generic introduction, and also at the end, it says regards Bhushan. I've never seen Bhushan sign an email with regards, so if somebody's using language that's outside of what you normally get from them, that's a red flag and something you should look for. Again, this is going to be a theme. We've got poor grammar, 100% acknowledgement required before implement policy, right? So it should be before we implement the policy. Maybe it's a typo, maybe it's not, but we're starting to build evidence that this might not be right. Another thing I can do is I can click on, this is in Gmail, we use Gmail, so I can click on the name and it'll pull up the actual email address. So when I do that, now I immediately see, okay, wait a minute, this is not from Bhushan's Sensei email address. So these are the things that we have to look for, but the most important thing we could have noticed right out of the gate is this. It says external, right? And this is a setting that everyone should enable in their email service. You should all enable the setting that says alert me when the email is external, right? Because now if I know that that's enabled and I'm trained on it and I know what to look for, when I see that external, I immediately know this is not from Bhushan, and I can just delete it or alert my staff that this is a phishing email. All right, so what's the hacker's objective? Let's say I miss all of the indicators and I click on the unlimited PTO policy. It takes me to something that it probably would take me to, right? If I'm trying to get into our policy and our policy stored in Microsoft, because we're using Office 365, it makes sense that it would ask me for my login credentials, right? So again, we have an opportunity where the hacker's trying to obtain our login credentials. But once again, if we look at the URL, you can see the back part of it looks right, 365 Microsoft. But remember that everything before the backslash is the actual website that you're going to. So they're trying to take us to officelogins.ru. RU is a Russian domain, and everything after that .ru is irrelevant, right? So always look for what is before the backslashes, and that's the website that they're trying to take you to. So even though this looks official, we can immediately determine, oh wait, they're trying to attempt to attempting to spear phish me and trying to get my credentials. All right, next one we're going to cover is smishing. So, you know, as our workforces have become more distributed and people are operating more on their phones and their tablets and other things, the cyber criminals have adjusted. And smishing is simply phishing via text message. So everything that I talked about when it comes to phishing applies to smishing. They're just doing it via a text message and trying to either get you to click on something to download some malware, and or again, trying to establish some login credentials. So we'll go through a quick example here. This text looks to me like it's coming from Karen Witkowski, our newly hired at this time when this text came out, marketing manager. And it's saying, "Hi, it's Karen, sending over my direct deposit form as you request." Now, this is a very common attack that's going on right now. And the reason for it is whenever someone gets a new job, what's the first thing you see when you're scrolling through your LinkedIn profile? Congratulate so-and-so on their new position, right? So the hackers are looking at that too. And what they're doing is they know that when someone is newly hired, one of the things that they have to do is fill out a direct deposit form. So they pose as that person, they send out a text message to somebody, they go through LinkedIn and find out who's the likely person to be handling this, and they blast these text messages out or emails out saying, "Hey, here's the actual form." Sometimes it will contain a form, and the objective is to divert a couple of paychecks away from the employee. And sometimes, like in this case, it's just trying to deploy malware. So what can we look for? I don't think most people spell their own name wrong. It's possible we make a typo, but again, it's an indicator, right? So pay attention to spelling. Repeating this over and over again, but we've got poor grammar. It says sending over my direct deposit form as you request. Could be a typo, but it should be as you requested or per your request, right? And then lastly, and this is something a little bit nuanced, but in this case, Sensei does not use Dropbox. We don't use it for anything, right? It's not something that we use on a day-to-day basis. So if somebody is asking you to use a tool that your company doesn't use, that's one of the first indicators. Wait a minute, we don't use Dropbox. I better call and check with somebody before I do this. And then lastly, look at where it's trying to take us is droppbox.com, and Dropbox actually only has one P. All right, last one we're going to cover is Scareware. This one is aptly titled because it is pretty scary if it does happen to you. What happens is the cyber criminal installs a malicious pop-up ad on a website and tries to direct you to that website. So if any of you have been on Facebook and you've taken the quiz to see which Disney character you would be, oftentimes those are designed by hackers who are trying to get you to click on it, and which will behind the scenes install a pop-up ad that will appear later on your computer. So when you visit that quiz, you inadvertently or unknowingly click on something that causes that pop-up ad to be downloaded into your browser. And what happens is a very official looking message will appear on your screen the next time you go on the internet. Excuse me. And it oftentimes will appear that it's coming from your antivirus company or it's coming from your operating system. So either it's coming from Windows, it's coming from Mac OS, or it's coming from your antivirus company. It will tell you that your computer has a serious problem, you've got ransomware or some other serious virus on your computer, and you need to either download something to fix it or call a phone number. And your computer will appear to you that it's completely locked. Like you can't do anything. You click anywhere, you just can't get rid of this no matter what you do. Here's a very recent example of it. If we first look at this, now imagine we go to Google Chrome or we go somewhere to search for something and this pops up. Once this is on your screen, it will appear to you that you can't get rid of it. And as you look at it, it does look somewhat official. It's got in the background, it's got Microsoft support. You can see there's drop-down menus. You can see it's Microsoft Windows. Windows Defender is the antivirus that we use, so it's looking like it's very official. So what is it telling you to do? We read this, again, sticking with my theme, we've got some really poorly worded things here, but it starts out fine. Do not restart your computer. Your computer is disabled. Please call Microsoft. And then we get into access is the block security session for this computer. That doesn't make sense. Please contact immediately. Also poor grammar. A technician will help you solve the problem. All right, so it doesn't look right. And what is it asking us to do? It's asking us to contact Windows support, and it's providing us a phone number. One thing to be aware of, if you ever receive anything via email, text message, or a phone call, Windows, your operating system, your antivirus people, they are never going to ask you to call them. So that's the first thing you need to know. If you see this, 100% it's someone trying to scam you. And in this case, what they're trying to do is if you were to call that 800 number, they would answer the phone and say, hello, this is Microsoft support. You would explain to them that I'm completely locked out of my system. I've got this message. They would say, oh, no problem at all. We're aware of it. It's a widespread thing that's going around with Microsoft. Please give us authorization to remote into your system and we'll fix it. And once they remote into your computer, they now have the keys to the kingdom. And that's what they're really looking for. They want to remote into your computer and then have access to everything, your payroll records, your employee data, your customer records, all of those things. And this is a very easy one to fall for because it does seem like you really have a problem. So how do we fix this? I think it was really important for this one to point out it is actually quite easy to fix. This was a cyber brief that we sent out to our clients about this very issue. And here's how you fix it. You hit Control-Alt-Delete simultaneously. A little window will pop up that says Task Manager. You select whichever browser you're in. So if you're using Google Chrome or you're using Microsoft's browser, you select that browser, you click in task, and that thing will go away. But that is the only way to get rid of it. How to permanently prevent it from happening is you just need to make sure that your ad blocker is enabled on your antivirus software. And that will probably prevent 90+% of it. Some of them may still get through. If they do, we just wanted you to know how to go about fixing that, because that one can seem really problematic and can cause people to panic and do something they shouldn't do. There are many other types of social engineering out there. This is just sort of a list. We wanted to kind of give you the highlights of the ones that we see most often and that we felt as though were very recent and that your folks can recognize. But these are other ones that you can take a look at, look into. I'll talk about two of them just very briefly. The first one is whaling. Whaling is often directed at the owner of the company, the CEO of the company, or the executives of the company. And the emails are normally sent from the CEO to another senior executive. So they're posing as the CEO. They've done a lot of research typically. They've read all the articles about the CEO or the owner of the company. They've read all the blog posts. They've been on LinkedIn. They've been following that person. So they sort of have inside information about the movements and behavior and interests of that executive at the company. And then they'll pose as that person and send an email to another executive within the company asking for them to do something. Hey, can you review this financial report? Hey, I've got this travel request that needs approval. So one level up the executive chain, right? And that those can be very, very real looking because they're very, very researched. The second one I'll talk about here is just one that happens in the physical world and a lot of times happens at airports. So if you travel for your job and you're trying to work from the airport bar or the airport lobby, be very conscious of people standing behind you. There have been numerous instances of very successful cyber attacks where someone just hung out at either the hotel lobby, the hotel bar, the airport lobby, the airport check-in area, and watched people log into their systems. So be cautious if people are standing behind you when you're accessing your computer systems. So these other ones here, honey traps, quid pro quo attacks, watering hole attacks, those are a little bit more rare and a little bit more complex, but they are things that you can look into if you'd like to learn about them. Phishing is actually the same thing as phishing and the same thing as phishing, so it's happening via phone call. So they're calling you, trying to get you to do something in a more physical sense rather than in a digital sense. So with that, I've covered my portion of the presentation. I hope you all learned something. I think we're going to be making this available via recording. So if you want to go back and look at these indicators, you want to share these indicators with your employees so they know what to look for, you can do that. And I believe we have one more polling question that we can do, and then we'll go to questions.
Great. How about we answer this first question from the chat? I'll read it out loud. So it's from Kelly, and the question is, Dave, it seems like every restaurant I go to has their menu on a QR code now. Are there fake QR codes placed out in public that can hack into your phone?
Yes, this is a good thing to talk about. So what I always do when I go to those restaurants is the first thing I do is scratch on that QR code a little bit, because what'll happen is hackers will create stickers that look just like that QR code, and they'll place them over the top of the existing QR code. And then when you go in there, you can either accidentally download something. There's a very famous one that happened recently in Texas where the parking meters were all done by QR codes. So some smart hacker went out, covered all the parking meters with his QR code. So when you went to pay your parking meter and entered your credit card information on that QR code, you were actually giving it to the hacker. So yeah, they are something to be aware of. You should always just kind of confirm that, you know, this is the actual QR code and nothing's been stuck over the top of it.
Isn't that a great world we live in, Dave? Where you gotta worry about going in and scratching on your menu. So all right, so listen, feel free to ask any more questions in the chat. But I gotta say, wow, don't you guys hate the bad guys? I mean, seriously, right? I mean, come on. But I think I can tell you that I learned a lot from Dave today, and I'm his co-founder with him, right? And I've worked with him for a long time, but there's some things I learned today. I would tell you that spear phishing example that he gave from Bushin, that email, that would have fooled me potentially. So the bad guys are getting really, really good. And the lessons and the little tidbits Dave went over today, you know, share them with your friends, share them with your family, share them in your community, because those are things that are going to protect not only your organization, but the people you care about. So awesome job. Thanks, Dave. Why don't we do our last polling question here? And again, we'll give about a minute on this, but again, as Evan pulls this up, if you see any more questions, if you have any other questions for Dave, please put them in the chat while we go through this. But the last quick poll question we'll do this afternoon is, have you experienced phishing, spear phishing, smishing, isn't that a great word, or scareware in the last 12 months? And again, we'll give about a minute on this. But again, any other questions, feel free to put them in there, and it can be any question. You can ask Dave about his MSP days if you want, his Michigan State Police days. I just think you can ask him anything you want, and again, answer the quick poll question here. I think it's really interesting, the different kind of words we use, but it's the words we use in a very scary cybersecurity world.
Yeah, I think now that you learned about what these things are, you might have more context to say, maybe I have seen something like that in my email.
And if you ever heard me speak before, you'll hear me say this too. You're going to be one of the most popular people at the cocktail party or the football tailgate this weekend when you start talking about the things that Dave kind of communicated and educated you on today. You can go up to somebody and just say, hey, when was the last time you got smished? And see what they say, right? So all right, well, great.
Results.
let's look at the results of the polling questions. Evan, you want to pull those up? By the way, Evan is one of our teammates here. He does an incredible job for us, and I want to give him a little shout out. So, do you know anyone who's experienced a cyber attack in the last 3 years? 67% of you said yes. Not surprising. I actually thought the number would be higher. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it would probably be over 70% because it just seems to be increasing more and more.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things I do. You know, as you do go to your tailgate or your parties this weekend, ask your friends. Ask your friends this question: do they know anybody who's experienced a cyber attack? I suspect, you know, probably 2/3 of them will say yes. Next one, yeah. So next polling question. Yep. Are you looking to improve your cybersecurity? Again, yes right away, 80%. B in the next 3 to 6 months, 20%. And I'm not really sure, and my budget is 0. And I think that's pretty clear to Dave and I and the team here at Sensei. When we talk to our clients, or when we talk to clients now or future clients, potential clients, everyone's putting in their budget now. It's almost like how you budget for your finance department or your HR department. It's something that you have to do now because cybersecurity is a chronic condition. It's not going anywhere. What do you think about that, Dave?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that of the 0% because oftentimes, you know, it's something, as with other types of business risk, is something that sometimes can easily be put off for later, right? But it's great to see that at least people are thinking about it and considering it. You know, as with any other business risk, you know, we recommend that companies talk about it. You know, if you have board meetings, make it an agenda item. If you have executive leadership team meetings, make it an agenda item. You know, start to understand how you're doing. Are you prepared to respond, and are you prepared to recover should an incident occur? As with any other business risk, the more we talk about it, the more we understand it, and the better we get at it.
And that's a great point. And it's a great opportunity for all of you to talk to your organization, your teams about cybersecurity. As next month is October, which is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do, and it's kind of, for lack of better words, celebrate cybersecurity with your organization. What you want to do is you want to demystify cyber. You want to take the scariness away. You don't want to take the seriousness away. You want to take the scariness away. And we'll be able to, you know, at Sensei, we do a lot of that with our clients. We do a ton of kind of education and awareness, and October is going to be a big month for us, and we're going to really celebrate it with our clients.
Hey, before we go to the next polling question result, I have another question that popped in. It says, do you know in Outlook where the setting is for alert me to external email? You can reach out for us and we can provide you some instructions through SBAM. We have on their website, and Kelly, you might speak to this, the Ask the Cyber Experts. So if you hit us with that, we can provide you some instructions on how to do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll be able to give you step-by-step instructions via email, and you'll be able to implement that as best you can. And Kelly just put the link right into the chat. So go ahead and everyone and just copy that, and it'll be great. All right, so let's go to the last polling question. And the answers here, have you ever experienced phishing, spear phishing, smishing, or scareware in the last 12 months? Not surprised. Well, I'm a little surprised. 15% said no. If you have a personal email address, trust me, you got a phishing email.
Just might have deleted it.
There's one in there. You know, if somebody's, because they'll send out mass emails to people, and they get in there, and but it sounds like you deleted it or you recognized it, and so that's really, really good. Congratulations on your taking a quick eye on it. So I'll turn it back over to Dave for any final comments.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for joining us, everyone, today. I truly hope that you did learn something on this. As I said, it will be available recorded in the next few days. So if you want to, we encourage you to share it with others. You know, defending against cybersecurity is a team sport. You know, it really takes, the more awareness we can bring to these things to the more people, will make it more and more difficult for the bad guys to actually get into our systems. And that's what we're really going for. So we encourage you to share this with others and help educate them, because it'll help protect all of us. You know, there's lots of times where we're doing business with other people through the supply chain and they do something wrong and we didn't, and now it impacts us. So it's really important. It's really important to share these things, and I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Hey, I got one more question, Dave. Recently in the news, there was discussion about schools being hit with ransomware. How do you think, the question is, how do you think the bad guys are getting into the schools to implement the ransomware? What tactics are they using?
I'd be shocked if most of the tactics that they're using aren't the social engineering tactics that we've talked about just now. There's another very recent one in the news where a company called Twilio, which is a text message service, one of their employees inadvertently got phished and downloaded some malware that spread through all these different companies, from DoorDash to, I don't remember some of the other ones on the list, but some very famous companies that we all use on a day-to-day basis. And that came in through a phishing email that somebody didn't notice. So when it comes to schools, you know, you've got students on there, you've got teachers on there, you've got hectic, busy schedules. And typically these things work when someone's in a hurry, right? They're in a hurry, they want to deal with something really quickly. They're not taking the time to read it and look at it closely. So that's one way that I think, you know, schools are impacted. I could probably get into some other ones when it comes to the way their Wi-Fi is set up and some other more technical things, but I think that's probably the most likely one.
Yeah, it's interesting that question was posed, because as you were talking, I was thinking of my two teenagers who have their own email addresses now because everything related to their schoolwork is online. And I should probably go over these techniques with them so that they don't get caught clicking on an email that they shouldn't have.
See, Kelly, you too will become a crazy parent around cybersecurity as well, right?
Yeah, you've sucked me in.
As soon as that came out, I alerted my kids about the DoorDash, because my kids are the age where they use DoorDash, and go in and they had to change their passwords, and they'd make sure that they were being responsible when it comes to cybersecurity. So
yeah, I talked to my son about these things and show him what to look for, and he kind of thinks it's a game now. He's like actively looking for them to see if he can identify stuff. So he'd find it more fun probably than we do. We're trying to get stuff done.
Right.
Well, listen, I'm gonna kick it back over to Kelly here, but I want to thank you for thanks Dave. Thank Dave Kelly again for a great presentation.
Yeah.
And wait, we got another question. Hold on, sorry, they're not letting us go yet, Kelly.
That's okay. We have time.
All right, great.
What specific steps do I need to take as a business owner to proactively avoid cyber problems from happening before they happen?
Yeah, this is a bit of a long answer. Probably more.
Will you repeat the question? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, it was. Go ahead, Evan.
What specific steps do I need to take as a business owner to proactively avoid cyber problems from happening before they happen?
Yeah, you really have to take a holistic approach. So cybersecurity really involves 5 categories: identify, detect, protect, respond, recover. And what does that mean? We need to be doing the things to protect ourselves that we are capable of doing, that are within our budget to do. We need to be forcing password changes, for example, right? Using complex passwords, enabling multi-factor authentication, right, on the applications that we can do, and understand how do we do that stuff, right? And have someone that can provide you the instructions on how to do these things. We need to have the ability to know when something is wrong inside our networks. And I think that's on the protection side. But what's also really important is it's important for everyone to understand that nobody can be 100% protected from a cyber attack. What you can do is do things that'll significantly make it less likely that you're going to be vulnerable to a cyber attack, because the cyber criminals will move on to the next person, the lower hanging fruit, if you have some of these things established. That being said, you also need to be prepared to respond if an incident occurs and be able to recover and stay in business. So there are things that you can do when it comes to backups. It's having your backups set up on a separate network or in a cloud service, right? Making sure you're backing up every day. Those types of things will save you if an event happens, because you will be able to recover, number one, your data, and number two, you'll be able to recover much more quickly and have much less impact on your business if you're setting those things up properly. And then on the preparation side, we need to understand what to do if we have an incident and have a plan that we can get into action quickly before these types of things spread. So I know that's a long answer, but it really needs to be a holistic approach that businesses take.
Yeah, and let me really emphasize the education and awareness piece for your employees. That Stanford study that talked about 88% of cyber breaches can be stopped with good, solid cyber hygiene, which is education and awareness.
And
policies. And those are the things that each organization should have. If you don't have them, don't be scared about it. Just take active steps. Start to create a proactive cyber culture. And take active steps forward, because they're not real hard to put in place. It could be a little intimidating, but don't hold back and say, well, I can do that, next week or next month. I'll budget for that next year. Everybody's under attack, and you do the right things like Dave talked about today, and you educate yourself and look at things around social engineering. You're really going to put yourself in a better space, and you're gonna sleep better at night too. So, well, I had one final comment came in and just said to Dave, thank you for your public service. I think somebody for your 26 years in Michigan State Police. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
And again, thank you to SBAM and to Kelly for hosting us today. I'll do one little thing. That Ask the Expert on the SBAM site. Take advantage of that. You get access to experts like Dave Kelly who can answer questions, easy questions for you. So no question's a bad question. And thanks again, Dave. Kelly, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate this partnership, and these webinars are a regular series that we're going to be doing once a month. So they will be posted on the website, and then keep an eye out for the next one. It's all very helpful information, something that you can pass along not only to your own team members, but your family and friends. So don't hesitate to reach out, follow that link, and let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you for joining us.
And also let us know how your tailgate or your cocktail party goes and how popular you are.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.